Most people maybe do their worst video game purchases as a kid, where they hurt the most because you don't get that much money as a kid, unless you're a spoiled little brat. You also don't know exactly what game is good or what even makes a game good, except for having fun with it, so it makes picking one hard. So you never want to pick a bad game because you're gonna be stuck with it for a little bit before you can get a new one. The only console I had this problem for a lot was the Game Boy Color. It was the first video game system I owned, so I didn't really know what to really look for. Obviously I had the big hitters like Pokemon, Kirby, Mario or Zelda, but aside from those franchises I didn't know what else is good. So going to flea markets to pick a game was always a gamble, because most of the time you didn't even have a box that showed more of the game, but instead only the little picture on the cartridge instead. So I had a lot of bad games like Crazy Dracula or the Toy Story game, but they didn't even hurt that much because they were like $5 only. Remember when flea markets actually made sense to go to for video games? When there ran flea market YouTubers who already show up at 5 AM in the morning when it's still dark outside and ask everyone if they can already check their stuff, even though they haven't even fully unpacked yet, so they snatch away any good games they can find for any reasonable price, so they can complain when they can't find anything good despite them being the problem because everyone does it, so they steal away each other's stuff. Good times. But around the time I got the PlayStation 1, I also was able to use the internet to look for some cool games, and when I got the GameCube I also bought the GamePro magazine monthly and even got a subscription later on to it, so I would always stay up to date on games that are good or not so good, which didn't always really help, but throughout my years I rarely got a game I really didn't like playing, but enough mumbling about the past and all that, and let's get to the point already. Fighting games. Instead of just naming one fighting game, I could name every single fighting game I ever bought, with the exception of the Smash games, and yes, please tell me in the comments that I am in the wrong for calling it a fighting game, or maybe say I'm right with it, I don't really care either way. I suck at fighting games really badly, and when you suck at something it's not really that fun, right? So what should I do? Probably get better at them, but I don't want to spend all my time looking at frame data and looking up matchups and all that, so this is a totally me problem. I keep telling myself, what if this game is gonna be different this time? In the last few years I bought Guilty Gear X third Revelator, however you pronounce that, and thought, yeah, I'm gonna get good at this game. Did I get good at it and dropped it after a few hours? Yes. Then Soul Calibur 6 came out and I thought, this could be fun. Dropped after a few hours, and pretty recently it was Street Fighter 6, which I actually played for a fairly long time, like 20 hours, which is a lot for me in a real fighting game. Mostly because I played it with friends, but again, it will now collect dust in my Steam library. Unless they add cool crossover characters like Lilith from Darkstalkers, then I will play again. After Street Fighter 6, I think I finally learned my lesson to not buy these at full price at least. Maybe get one on sale when it's cheap, so I didn't put a whole $60 right into the cent when it hurts the most. Getting beaten up in real life is probably more fun for me than fighting games, but only because I'm a masochist. Maybe I could stop whining and really try to get good at them, but I could just spend my time in better ways instead, like just mindlessly scrolling on Twitter or watching dumb YouTube videos. Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. As a super huge fan of Back to Nature on the PlayStation 1, I knew I had to get it when I saw it at the store. My mom allowed my sister and me to pick one game each, and I went for this one where my sister got Pokemon Channel, so we both kinda got cursed. But despite how harsh this might sound, I think Pokemon Channel ended up being the better game of the two. Take that however you want to. I'm sure it's not a totally embarrassing insult for A Wonderful Life. As a kid I thought, wow, Harvest Moon but on a way stronger console than a flimsy PlayStation 1? This can only be great. But it just lacks everything that I loved about Back to Nature. It just lacked that special charm. It had like almost no mini games or events, the town was extremely small and everything just felt so depressing. Thanks to the look of the game, it lacks so much color. Back to Nature made me want to live somewhere in a cute comfy little village. A Wonderful Life did the opposite. It made me think, hey, maybe living in a city isn't so bad. Since I never lived in a small village so far, I'm not sure which game depicts living on the land the best, but maybe one day I will be able to judge it personally. It felt like 2 steps backwards and not putting a single step forward, and was the start of the decline of Harvest Moon games for me. I played it for like a few hours and just had to put it down out of boredom. I never even got to the best mechanic in the game, where you get a kid and die so you can continue as the kiddo. But even that wouldn't have made me suddenly think it was all worth it. I just can't do it. Even when I tried playing it as an adult again, I just got so bored by it. To be fair, even Back to Nature bores me fairly quickly nowadays if I try to play it again. I really wish there would be a good Harvest Moon game again. And no, Story of Seasons is also extremely bland. And Stardew Valley might have the best farming gameplay, but it just lacks the charm of the old Harvest Moon games for me. One day I will find a farming game again that I will fall in love with, hopefully. Nintendo Switch Sports. As a little information, if you're watching this video in the future or something, I made this video in October of 2023, and at this point Nintendo Switch Sports already came out over a year and a half ago. The only thing they added since then, golf, with recycled courses from earlier Wii Sports games. Bravo Nintendo, absolutely fantastic. Fuck this company sometimes, but hey, you can unlock tons of costumes even though you won't have any fun doing it because you will keep grinding out the same 5 sports the game launched with, because I do not like golf at all for these outfits. Yay. Yeah, there's so much fun. Seriously, how can you not add anything new to it? I read that people data mined a bunch of other sports, but nothing ever came out of it so far. And with each passing direct, the chances of anything more getting added is getting lower and lower. So they were either scrapped in the development before the game came out, or they just said fuck it, this didn't sell well enough, so scrap the plans for the other modes because our customers who actually fell for this game don't deserve them because others didn't fall for it. $40 for this. I can't believe that I actually bought it. I really thought Nintendo would actually add so much more to this game. I was a fool. I should have never supported a game that launches with so little. I apologize to everyone out there that I bought this game and gave Nintendo money for this, so they can repeat it on the next console and launch it with maybe 2 or 3 more sports added, which will still be half of the amount that Wii Sports Resort had. Mario Strikers Battle League. Wow, another Switch multiplayer game from Nintendo that I bought in the hopes of it turning out to be good. And it actually is a good game, if the online mode wouldn't have been so terrible. The core gameplay is so good actually, way better than that from the terrible Mario Strikers Charge, which was also a total disappointment, and I would have barely played it by myself if it didn't have online co-op multiplayer, which made me and a friend grind it a lot to always rank highly in the leaderboard that did a weekly reset. But in this game, the online system was just so dumb. You didn't really collect points by yourself, but by your club, and if you made your own club, the game actually punished you for it and didn't allow you to pick the characters you want, and you had to pick random characters that you never use, so they didn't even have the gear and all that. Why? Why am I getting punished for not wanting to be in a dumb club? I just want to play for myself. I think eventually they added something like that, but at that point the game was already dead. If I went online in it right now, there would be maybe like a few people playing, owning the heck out of me because I haven't played it in a while. I didn't even care about having no content to do in the single player because the other Mario Smash football games didn't really have any other content to unlock either, except that ultra OP robot team in the first game, where you also got their stadium. It just lacked the whole game when you used it. All it needed was an actual fun online ranking mode that also was always online. They only allow you to collect points on the weekend, and then you basically just play it for fun until they open it up again. It's just stupid. Why would Nintendo do this? I don't get it. I really don't. With Mario Kart, you always have an online ranking system where you can drive anywhere, anyhow, anything. You can play it all the time and you always get the points, but here you didn't. You had to wait and... Gameplay wise, I have nothing to complain about except for the simple fact they removed the dripped out crocodile keepers against fucking Boom Boom, my most hated video game character of all time. He sucks at saving goals because they gave him so many dumb animations instead of actually using that time on his AI to make him smart enough to save simple shots and not doing his dumb little hee I'm punching the ball away animation, but instead of punching the ball, I used it wrongly and totally just let the ball go through. So much fun, really amazing. Boom Boom just pisses me off so much that I never want to see him again. But sadly Nintendo has such a hard-on for one of the worst bosses in video game history. Yippee, let's reuse him 200 times. Mario Bros. 3 is my favorite jump-in one of all times, maybe. Basically, and I understand Boom Boom being used so much in that game because of limitations, but any other Mario game using this ugly bald throat more than once is just doing it because Nintendo sucks ass and making good 2D Mario boss fights. Here's your dumb Koopa Links, woohoo, here's your ugly fucking bald Boom Boom. I have nothing against bald people, yippee, here's Bowser Jr. for the infinity times. Fuck you Nintendo. Sorry. Tears of the Kingdom. My biggest disappointment of all time probably, and the first core Nintendo game where I got really disappointed by. I talked about Switch Sports or Mario Battle League, but those are little titles. Games you won't expect to be total masterpieces. But not once in my whole life did I ever get disappointed in any of the big franchises like Mario, Zelda, Metroid, etc. Not even Other M disappointed me this greatly. And the weird thing about it is that I kinda expected to be disappointed by it. When they first revealed it, I was wow, holy goddamn, an actual sequel to Breath of the Wild? Great! They already laid the groundwork with Breath of the Wild, so now they can fix all the little things like new enemy variety, actual dungeons, and all that stuff. One little interview a bit after the reveal really made me worry though. The interview where Aonuma said it will be the same Hyrule, but obviously with some changes here and there. After I learned that it uses the same world as Breath of the Wild, I thought, okay, fair. I'm sure they will change it a lot though to make it feel fresh. And they did not. It literally is the same world, now with floating islands that repeat themselves too often, and an underground that plays absolutely zero role whatsoever except for some little things. There was so much room to make a whole new civilization living down there, new races, all that fancy stuff, towns even maybe. Nope, they didn't got any of that, just fight the same enemies as you would in the overworld, but now with gloom, woohoo. I already got enough gloominess in my own life, I don't need even more of it. I know I sound very cynical, but the more I played the game, the more I realized they haven't changed any of the things I had problems with. The enemy variety is still lacking so much, the story is somehow so poorly presented and told that it's even worse than Breath of the Wild story, and I know, this take will probably melt some faces off with how hot it is, but the Divine Beasts were better dungeons than what we've got. The water dungeon is a bunch of flying platforms, the fire dungeon can be cheesed to hell and back, the lightning temple is pretty okay, and the wind temple had a cool scenario and build up and one of the best boss themes ever in the franchise, but aside from that, but they were all just basically go in, get the 5 logs and now beat up the boss. The Divine Beast had the same issue, but there they felt way cooler with their own gimmicks, where you change parts of it, you know, like the giraffe, you changed its neck, and the elephant and its big heart. Sorry. If all the Divine Beasts would have had a unique look to them, I think they would be remembered more fondly, because the new dungeons may have cool unique looks, but they lack anything I want from a Zelda dungeon. They feel so disconnected and more like a few random rooms glued together than an actual dungeon where you gotta learn the layout of it. And that hidden temple is also pretty bad. The thing is, I could go on and on and on, but the worst offender for me personally is that there's no new villages or anything like that really. They had years to rebuild stuff, but instead Hateno is just full of mushrooms now and got a school, one village is destroyed so you actually get less villages than before, and the rebuild quest is lacking so much again in comparison to the Terry Town one in Breath of the Wild. But yeah, one day maybe I will make a 12-hour video about Tears of the Kingdom, but till I make that there's gonna be so many of those already that it's not worth the effort. I love the new abilities, but they're also so wasted on a world I already have explored before. If they would have given me those tools in the new world, it would maybe be in my top 3 games of all time instead. Because that's what Breath of the Wild was for me, a new fresh breath of air when Zelda really needed it, letting me get lost in the world and making the exploration super fun. I don't understand how Nintendo got away with this and got so many perfect ratings, I really don't. Other games would get massacred for reusing the same world without any meaningful changes, except, oh, here's a cave that repeats itself and here's a sky island that repeats itself, hee. But here everyone is just like, yay, this is amazing. This sounds like I want others to stop having fun with it, but I don't. I love it when others have fun. That's why I'm a cuck who would happily share his wife with others. NieR and NieR Automata. I had a bunch of friends on Twitter who raved about NieR back in like 2015, so I thought, hey, why not? It was only like 15 bucks, so I can't go wrong with it, and sadly I kinda went wrong with it. The first NieR is the kind of game you really try to like, but when you don't connect with the characters, there's nothing really binding you to the game. The gameplay is okay at best, the presentation is pretty bad except for the amazing music, and when the story falls flat, it just falls totally flat. Kain was a cool character, but I did not like anyone else, and I just did not really care about any of them. Especially Emil. Sorry, I tried really hard not to hate him, but it's impossible for me not to hate him. Now, 2 years later, it got a sequel and boom, I was stupid enough to think that Automata would be a better experience, so I wasted 60 bucks on the PC release version of it that was pretty borked. And it was not worth it. I played it more than the first NieR and got all serious endings, but I had to force myself really. In a way it's a worse game than the first one for me even. Again, I did not really care about any of the characters except for Pascal, and thought the overall story was as shallow as a puddle from a 5-minute whale. Where it really lost me though, was that it had almost none of the moments that stay with you, even if you dislike the game. It was just go here, fight, go there, fight, go here again, fight, go there again, fight, over and over. Sure, the locations like the amusement park or the copied city are pretty cool looking, but none of the locations have anything special about them to me. You go there and fight, that's it. In the first NieR, I went to places like the forest where it turns into a novel and you have to pick the path depending on the text. I went into a sand palace that worked a bit like a Zelda temple and had to follow certain rules. I went into a Resident Evil mansion. It brought in cool variety that changed it up so much sometimes and wasn't just mindless, typical Platinum Games gameplay. You might think I'm someone who just does not enjoy Yoko Taro games, but that's wrong since I love the Drakengard games, especially 3. And yeah, I know he barely worked on 2, but I still somehow really liked that one too. Haha. I really wish I could connect more with the characters in the NieR games, but I think one of the reasons that I don't is that most of them are trying too hard to be pitiful. They feel like melodramatic sitcom characters sometimes. While in Drakengard most characters also have shitty fates that make them suffer, but it's done in a more unserious way that isn't trying so hard. The end. So, those were the games I regret buying the most maybe. Most of them were fairly recent and normally I have a pretty good nose for sniffing out games I wouldn't like, but sometimes even my nose fails me. You know what they say, sometimes sniffing can be the heaven of your dreams and sometimes sniffing can be the river Styx of your Hades. Everything has a bad side enough, or else yin and yang wouldn't exist. The opposite of water is fire and the opposite of light is darkness. I hope you enjoyed watching the video and maybe some of these games you also regretted buying, or the opposite, so you can tell me how much fun you had with these games, while I didn't had as much fun as you did. Since we are all different. I hate having to say goodbye, I never know what to really say, and I don't want to just say hey if you liked the video, like it and subscribe, but here you go, I said it, you don't have to do it though, even if you liked it, it's all up to you and your own free will.